my background, my ability came back to say my story, what had happened to me, all those who had influenced me, both positive and negatively, right? I was able to disseminate information on an academic level. Great. Fantastic. But kids don't care what you know until they know you care.
100%.
One of my mentors taught me that. People don't care what you know until they know you care.
All right, AJ, let's get rocking, man. So you came to me via Dennis Moralda, who's been on the show before. I was on Dennis's show, Building Men podcast. And dude, Dennis is a connector, man. He's an orchestrator. He's introduced me to a lot of really great dudes that we've had on this show. So I'm really excited for you to be here and tell your story.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, dude. I mean, that's Big D right there. Dennis Moralda, man. That's my boy, Building Men.
Yeah, dude.
He and I connected on a high level leading up to our gala event. So much so, I invited him to be our special guest speaker. And it was amazing. He did a great job.
I love it. That's so cool, man. We want to be a part of your next gala event, however we can help and support you. I love what you're doing. So
thank you.
On this, let's just get rolling with your background and like how you became the man on purpose you are today, because you weren't always that guy. And like I was telling you before we started recording, there are a lot of guys out there who think that it's just them. They think like they're sitting in their car right now, or they're sitting at home right now, and they're like, nobody gets me. Nobody understands. And nobody's dealing with what I'm dealing with. And the answer is everybody's dealing with a version of what you're dealing with. There's only like 10 things that most people deal with. If you think about it, it's love, money, sex, relationships, communication, self-worth, self-love. There's only like 10 of them.
Right.
I know that everybody's dealing with one of those 10. And so like, how'd this whole thing start for you? Like you were born in South Florida, right?
Yep. So It's funny. So even when you say the isolation, that feeling of being alone, just to address what you just said, I had to say this. There's one of the things in our mentorship programs and dealing with young men and young women throughout South Florida for the many years we've been doing it. I always have to remind myself and even remind them, like, look, you're not alone. You're not the only one going through this. You know, that's a scheme. That's that psychological warfare that you're going through where, you know, and just to make it common sense. And I'm like, there are 7-point-something billion people on this planet. You really think you're the only one going through this?
No way. No way.
You know, like, come on, guys.
No way.
I'm a math guy, so it's like, that doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, even from the standpoint of being a man on purpose, I mean, that right there for me was profound. You know, that's why it was a no-brainer to be on your podcast this morning, because I'm like, dude, I pride myself as being a man who lives on purpose and for a purpose. But at the end of the day, when, you know, per your question, is like, well, I wasn't a man on purpose my whole life. Why? Because I wasn't a man my whole life, right? I was a child. I was a little boy. And when you talk about my background, you know, growing up here in, well, today, not so sunny South Florida, because it is a rain monsoon. It was nasty outside today. You can see from the lighting. But, you know, growing up here in South Florida without a father, right? Without a man to emulate. I have a very strong mother, right? Who every Father's Day, she reminds me that I need to buy her a card, right? So, you know, she at an early age represented both, because she was tough, you know, Jamaican, you know, I'm South Floridian by way of Jamaica. My mother, my whole family's Jamaican. And, you know, her being over here in a work visa, in a school visa, meeting the gentleman who is, you know, that surrogate sperm donor, if you will, who she made a decision to not allow him really to influence my life in a negative way, and him just not wanting to be participant in it. You know, she made a decision, right? And at that age, at an early age, being here in Opelika, a low-income neighborhood, you know, growing up in the hood, around the corner was gangs and all types of drugs and alcohol and all types of crazy stuff that was going on right around the corner of our neighborhood. You know, it was a very tumultuous time in my life. I joke sometimes when I talk about my background, you know, when Michael Vick got in trouble for fighting pit bulls. And I'm like, what is that, dude? I was like, back in the hood, they used to fight us, right? They used to get kids, like, no joke. 7, 8-year-olds, 6, 7, 8-year-old, they would pair us up and say, fight.
Damn, man.
And that's how I grew up. I grew up tough. So when my mom got remarried, I guess, and got us out of that area, I got exposed to a completely different lifestyle than I had ever seen before. I was going to a predominantly Hispanic school, a private school. Thankfully, because of the discipline my mother gave me, and even though I'm 6 foot, 230-pound guy. Obviously, I played University of Miami football for years. But during that track of going from my adolescence, going through those teenage years, recognizing I couldn't turn to my mother for everything, there was that void that I sought out mentors. And that's exactly why I do what I do today, because I wouldn't be the man on purpose that I am today if it wasn't for those mentors I sought out.
Do you ever blame your mom, or do you ever have resentment or some kind of regret that your mom made that decision for you to not have that guy in your life?
Dude, that's of course, the
Sure.
simple answer is of course. Like that, something I battled with in my adult age, right? Now being a father myself, I married a woman with a child, raised that child from the time he was, a few years old. That was something I did almost in a compensation to prove something to myself that I was better than that man. But when I direct my attention to my mother, I recognized that I would be a bit short, almost disrespectful. I didn't know where it was coming from. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, she would point it out. And I didn't realize like those seeds of resentment that had grown over years is because I didn't have a father in my life, and recognizing as I got older that was her decision, not my decision, right? Sure. I was an innocent child. And then, of course, there was a time in my life, I got to share this, at 18 years old, I found out that once you turned 18, you could actually go find those sperm donors, if you will, those fathers, neglectful fathers, and like sue them, right? Literally, I heard, I was like, wait, what? You can sue them for all the child support as an individual that they owe you, blah, blah, blah. So I was about to go after this cat. And out of her pride, she discouraged me from doing it, right? So now, I'm 40 years old, and it's like, I couldn't pick this guy up in a lineup to save my life. You know what I mean? So
sure.
That's absolutely something about it, but I'm mindful of it. I'm conscious to it now. I wasn't conscious to it before, so I can act accordingly and more purposely.
So how did you, so for the one guy maybe that's listening, that had that same situation, but isn't in the mindset space or the mind space that you are today, what are the ways that you worked through that resentment, and why do you, is there a reason why you don't want to seek this guy out?
So that's a good question. So first of all, we all remember Bo Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Bo knows sports. Bo knows everything. Yeah. I remember being a huge Bo Jackson fan back in the day, dude. A huge fan. As I got older and he dropped his book, right? This is after he was injured. He finally left, retired, the whole nine. He dropped his book. I was reading the book, and I couldn't even get past this one chapter where he was talking about his father, right? And dude, it was so impactful. Yeah. When he talked about the fact that when he became the Bo Jackson that we all know, right? His father obviously reached out to him. Like his father caught wind, recognized the celebrity was his son, and he reached out to him and was trying to get in his life at that junction, at that point in his life, when he's a multimillionaire, one of the biggest names in the US and beyond. So of course this guy comes around like, yo, hey, I'm your daddy, you owe me something. And if you know anything about Bo's story, he was a tough mother, right? Yeah. Like he was a big, so he completely cut this guy down, like cut him down all the way. He attributes, Bo Jackson, his book, he attributes his injuries, the fall of his career, because of what he did.
Interesting. Like karma wise?
Yes.
Energy wise?
Wow. That energy, that negativity that he allowed to dictate his action at that time, transition. He accredits a lot of what happened to him because of that, versus like, hey, letting that go, being able to forgive that person. Yeah, you don't have to do what it is that they're asking you to do. You don't have to, in that regard. But at the end of the day, dude, your mother contributed part of your DNA. This man contributed another part. And you wouldn't be Bo Jackson if it wasn't for this guy's DNA too. So honoring to some extent and recognizing like the circumstances back in those days were beyond you. You weren't there. A lot of times there's her story, his story, and then the truth, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's beyond you. So why dwell on that and allow it to dictate your life?
Yeah. Dude, sometimes I talk to people that hold their parents in such high regard, and I'll say, do you realize, like, do you ever make stupid choices when you're 18, 20 years old? Right. Like go out when I get wasted at a party and hook up with somebody? Yeah, of course. Well, your parents did the same thing. Right. They were just kids. They were kids. So I like your thought process on the forgiveness and faith piece, and just like letting it go. Like it happened, and I can either go down this road, which is not like 50 roads. It's either I latch onto this and let this control me forever,
right?
Or I accept that this happened and I learned to let it go, and it's not going to go away.
Right.
It's a parent, well, whatever you want to say, parent, father. Like it's the other 50% of why you're here, but you're not going to let it control your life, and that's a great thing, man. And I really wanted to get specific on that for a second, so that whoever in the audience needed to hear that today, they now heard it, that they're not alone, and they don't have to live with the resentment like they weren't good enough, or like they weren't worth it to have what others have, or the dynamic that others have, which, by the way, like we were talking about earlier, everybody's got their problems. Everything looks great on Facebook until you get in behind closed doors and the locks turn and you hear some real shit go down. You know what I mean?
Can't put a filter on real life, huh?
Right. So, all right. So then, like, grew up in Miami, played for, oh my God, I'm not going to say it because I forget it, and I'm not going to mess it up with the other Miami. So, like, what's the school?
University of Miami, not the Miami
University of Miami.
University of Miami. Yeah, man, Hurricanes.
Yeah. And like this, just what? So how did all this stuff start to spin up? What did you do after college?
Dude, I mean, even before the after college, like the post college lifestyle, even to talk about my time there at UM, you know, I didn't go. This is not my claim to fame. Like, football was a moment in time for me that I'm proud of. You know, accomplishing that from the school that I came from, being one of the first people to go to a Division I college. But I didn't go to that college on an athletic scholarship. I went on an academic scholarship, right?
Oh, wow. Nice.
I mean, again, the discipline at home, my mom didn't play that, right? So you could not come home with a B. We won't even talk about those other letters, right? A B was a problem already. So, you know, I had a 4.0 GPA. I had a very high SAT score. I was able to get recruited. But the concept of recruitment out of the community I was born and raised in versus the University of Miami having an engineering program and them saying, hey, let me take this black kid who has a 4.0 GPA and bringing him into our program, had nothing to do with caring about me. It had all to do with their own agenda and funding, right? And so it's like, yo, but you're a Hurricane. You bleed orange and green. It's all about the you. Yeah, of course, I'm proud of that time, my friends, the relationships, all the things that came about that time at UM. But I'm not, I have no like loyalty around the system because it is systematic. Now, we hear a lot about systematic racism. I'm not here to talk about the racism. That's an aspect that we all know about. But a lot of times we look over that first word, systematic.
Sure.
Right? These are systems that are not necessarily geared to supporting you, right? They have a bottom line that they themselves have to push.
Totally. Yeah, it's an agenda.
They have an agenda. They're literally the education system. I had to share this. The other day, I looked up the top 10 industries in the U.S. The U.S. education system is number 6 as an industry. Think about that, right? You got the medical industry, you got pharmaceuticals, you got all this other stuff. 4 out of 10 of them are all medically based. But the fact that the education system is up there in that list says something. There's a bottom line that they push. So they pull me into this program. They don't evaluate my personality. They don't get to know me anymore. I'm just a piece of paper, right? As we all know, in this aspect. They stick me in this program that was not fitting for me at all, right? But that was my scholarship. I had to stick to it. Ended up playing football there for 3 years, got injured, came out of football, had to finish my degree. Come to find out all those scholarships, because I was on a full ride, all those scholarships expired after 4 years. No one told me that. Right? I thought as long as I was there, it was paid for. No. And then I don't have enough credits to graduate, need another year and a half to finish up. End up leaving the University of Miami on a full scholarship. And went in with a full scholarship, left with $60,000 worth of debt to start my quote unquote career.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's like that experience was almost traumatizing, bro. Like, honest to God, I mean, there's so many different things that happened. It was traumatizing. It was like, what? I did everything, quote unquote, right. I did everything you told me to do. I got the A's. I got the SAT score. I went to class. I did all these things. You wanted me to play football. I played football. I helped you win a championship. And I did all these things for you. How would I walk away with debt? You know? So after that, bro, I was burning. I was pissed. I was upset. I may have been mildly depressed and was just trying to figure things out. I came out and guess what? Guess what I didn't do? Didn't go into engineering.
Yeah.
5.5 years,
Why not?
all the resources, didn't go into engineering.
Is it because you were just chafed on it, pissed off about it?
I hated the degree. It didn't fit me. It didn't match. I mean, imagine, bro, like this personality, this body, everything that I am. I hate logic design. I hate computer programming. I hated all of that stuff. I would love.
I know, but you said you were a math guy, so I figured maybe the mathematics piece. I don't know.
You see that? And even, mind you, you're not even an educator per se, right?
Right.
And you would jump to that conclusion. Why would they? Like, okay, he's good at math. Put him in engineering. That's it. There's so
no. I don't think you're good for engineering. I think, well, I'm not a great math student, so I wouldn't even even be a part of that book that I read. But for you, like math, engineering, okay, that mixes. Where can a math student fit into maybe an engineering program, maybe a math program, maybe a computer science program? Yeah.
And which engineering program? Is it mechanical, civil?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
A whole slew of them, but you stuck me in electrical engineering because it was the only major attached to music engineering, because I'm a musician too. I play the piano, jazz saxophone, again, accredited to my mom, right? As a music teacher herself. So Renaissance type, dude. And they're like, oh, let's put him in the music engineering program without evaluating my actual personality and getting to know me a little bit better. End up having a default to an audio electrical degree. But like you said, like exactly, like I'm agreeing with you where, hey, he's good at math, so maybe engineering. Great. But what are the other options? What other choices do I have?
It's not a one size fits all for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So coming out, man, I was so, angry about the situation. I was so, just really pissed off. But I found myself back in the community paying it forward. Like I found myself seeing other students that looked up to me, right? Here's AJ, man. He went to the U. Oh, great. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Let me tell you a story. Right. And I would pay it forward. I would share it. And that's how all of this really came about.
I mean, isn't that, I can tell you right now, and I tell people this all the time in our mental purpose community on Facebook, like you sharing may be the most valuable thing to somebody in their entire life, more than money, more than relationships, and like deep level relationships. This is still a relationship when you share. Sharing, like we're doing right now, it allows people to know that they're not alone. Because like we talked about in the beginning, even though it's not logical, in that moment, you're alone. You feel it. You're like really feeling it, sitting somewhere by yourself. The worst part is like, I have some friends in New York City who have like major depression, and they'll sit out on the street. They'll walk the streets with hundreds of thousands of people and have never felt more alone in a crowd of people. That's scary. That's dangerous.
Right.
But when you share with somebody your life, things you've gotten, ways you've gotten through things, like that could be the most valuable piece ever to somebody. That's contribution to the max.
And dude, when you say dangerous, that resonates with me so much because it's so profound that you said that, in the sense of it's dangerous to have that isolation, to isolate yourself, right? Like you said, it's not logical, but be it if it's feeling ashamed, prideful, whatever the case may be, whatever those natural organic feelings are, you isolate, right? You don't want anybody to know what you're going through, but it's so dangerous because no one can help you, no one can support you, you don't have anybody to lean on because you've isolated yourself and you're not sharing what's going on. So the only way for somebody to even step up and help to interject or to get involved is if you share what you're going through.
But how'd you learn how to share though? Because I mean, I think most guys that go through that and feel not used, but like agenda-sized.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a word, but it sounds good in this context. It sounds like, you're a part of an agenda, someone else's agenda. You feel used, you feel kind of worked over. I think a lot of guys would be really angry about that. I mean, I have been in the past. And what helped you, or what changed your course to being someone that wanted to share versus getting out, getting back to the neighborhood and just having this fuck off or fuck this attitude towards society or school or whatever it was that did you wrong? Because technically everybody was doing you wrong your whole life. You know what I mean? Like not everybody, but you know what I mean? There's some major things in there. Like dad and school kind of cap ending like that youth. that's getting done wrong according to some book that somebody wrote somewhere that says this is the perfect life that you're supposed to have. Right. Doesn't exist. But like, why go out and start sharing with people instead of carrying resentment or anger or frustration and taking that to the community?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, first and foremost, growing up in the household that I grew up in, my mother, she raised me in a very religious home, right? Baptist, Christian religion. And as you and I were sharing, even before jumping on the podcast, like some of this spiritual truths. So some of these really practical truths that can be discovered and found in these religions, like for all intents and purposes, right? I don't see myself at this age and growing up. I found a place in a kind of a balance where I don't see myself as being religious, but I am very spiritual. And I believe that we can learn from all different types of aspects and all different types of fields. And I mean, I could go through a day and be in meditation and watch a cloud cluster and then like speak to me, you know what I mean? And not to sound all like,
I love that, dude.
It's just being open to the energy, what's going on. So to your point, some of the practical principles I got in that upbringing helped me to understand that I went through that season that you're talking about, pissed off, angry, bad boy, screw the world. It's all about me. I'm gonna protect myself, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, when I have to look in the mirror every morning, right, in that private time when I'm alone, I'm like, this is not who I am. Not truly. This is not who I want to be for the rest of my life. So after some time, whatever circumstances ended up transpiring, I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like, this is getting old. Like you said, going to the club every night, trying to chase tail, getting drunk, dodging the cops, like all this stuff. It's like, it gets old after a while. It was fun for a minute, but it gets old. And then, I mean, one day I ended up at like this youth movement program that they were doing. And I showed up and this dude walked out on stage with swag. He just came out with swag. And I was like, yo, who's this cat? And he started to talk and he delivered a powerful message, right? And when he delivered his message, I'm like, I want that, right? And for me, again, growing up without having a father to emulate, another man in my life to really emulate, I would seek out mentors. So I went to this, I kept going and kind of pursuing it and saying, look, dude, you're going to mentor me, bro. Like, I'm here, like, I'm not going away. And for me, my agenda was, I wanted what he had. I wanted that swag. I wanted how he was confident. I wanted that articulate, he was very articulate. I want to have that articulation. I wanted to be like that. So I ended up grouping with a lot of the young men who were essentially being mentored by him. And I literally walked in. I'm like, yo, I know you don't know me. My name's AJ. You're going to get to know me real quick. And I freaking pursued it like a rabid dog. Like, I was like, you're not getting rid of me. And shout out to Monte Benjamin. Shout out to Jason Torres. Some of my brothers to this day, where they tell a story all the time. They look at me like, man, who the hell is this guy? Like, why does he keep showing up here? And over time, I got more comfortable, opened up. We started to share and kind of relating. We were able to relate to each other's stories. And it was that brotherhood that really allowed me to kind of like start to open up and be more vulnerable.
Yeah, dude, I love that. So let's talk about mentorship for a second. I say this all the time to people, and people say like, man, you repeated a lot of the same stuff. And I go, hey, yeah, it's easy stuff. It doesn't go away. This stuff is the same application over and over. You evolve in it, but you take the same kind of medicine and you're going to evolve. And so like mentorship for me, what I learned was that I got tired of following these guys that had certain things that I wanted or had the money that I wanted to one day acquire.
Right.
And I started to realize that wasn't a sustainable model because they weren't really doing the work behind the scenes. They weren't sharing their most authentic self. They were sharing the shit that they thought would get you on board to now buy some product. And I had a lot of mentors like that. And that was fine because they got me to a certain point and they got me awareness of what I did and didn't want. So there's no qualms about that. No resentment, anger, nothing. But it wasn't until I said to myself, you know what, dude, you deserve better. And this is what resonates with your story. You deserve somebody to mentor you because you're great and you deserve great. And a guy that literally, like my dad has always been my mentor, but my dad couldn't be my only mentor. I needed to go out and find other people.
Right.
And so somebody said to me once years ago, do you really know who your mentor is, or do you just know like what they are? And I was like, fuck, give me more detail. And they're like, no, you'll figure it out. When you figure it out, you'll know the answer to that. And I obsessed over that. And what I realized was that these guys that I was following, they were shiny on the outside. They were talking about big money, big cars, houses, planes, yachts, all this stuff that I wanted. But I realized I wanted that because I thought that would make me feel safer in the world, and that my anxiety and panic and stuff that I felt inside would be gone if I were on a private jet or a big ass yacht going to an island. I wouldn't have any problems after that. So I followed guys that were basically hustle porn stars that showed this hustle, grind it, fuck holidays, fuck your family, just grind it out.
Right.
And then when that guy said that to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start following people based on who they really are off of Facebook, at home. Like I said earlier, when the doors close and lock, when that alarm goes on and they feel safe in their own home and they let their hair down and they can dish it out.
Right.
And share. That's the guys I need to start following. And that's the journey that you and I are very similarly on, because I learned from those guys how impactful that can be when you really can share with somebody and be there for somebody and hold a space for somebody. So I just applaud you so much for being on this path, man. And we're going to get deep into it, but I wanted to just share that similarity and why you and I have connected so well, because mentorship is crucial.
Everything. I mean, in fact, the name of the podcast, Men on Purpose, dude, and the way we were talking about before, building men from Dennis and, what you guys are doing is profound to me. It is critical. And there's a few things I want to say first and foremost with what's going on in our society, with a lot of what's been publicized. We are supporting, strong women and the women's movement, and we love our women. Again, single mom raised me, 3 aunts, love my women all day long. Equality, all of those things. But we can't forget about our men.
Yeah.
Right? We can't forget about our men. We got to have men to even help raise these women, right? And these girls. We talk about it and joke about it, and it has its truth behind it, but like daddy issues, be it of a girl or a man, or either way. So it's like we need to build our men. If we really want to build our society, we have to build up our men. And to your point that you were saying before, same thing, dude. I had multiple mentors, because remember, I was kind of like Batman. Like, I'm going to go around, I'm motivated, I'm pissed off, right? In Batman's case, somebody killed his parents, so now he's got nothing to lose. Everything's been ripped away from him. For me, that truth is like, yo, University of Miami failed me. People are failing me. Though no one's going to look out for your best interest, you got to look out for you. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going out there and I'm going to seek as many mentors and get any piece of what I want from them for me. Not that I'm going to follow them to the ends of the earth, right? And the wrongs they're doing behind scenes with their own mess. But like, okay, he's charismatic. I want that. Hey, he's articulate. I want that. Hey, he's really good at business. I want that. And I would take these components to build me. It's the same thing in jazz, right? When I play my music, bro, I hear, I could hear a guitarist, and I'm like, ooh, I like that lick. Can I get a piece of that on a sax? You know what I'm saying? And I hear all these different composers and these artists, and I'm like, I like that. I like this. I like that. And then I make my own sound. You understand? And it's the same component behind it. Yeah, I had the guys who were chasing, the yachts and the money. And there were pieces of that, some of that ambition I wanted, but not all of it, right? Because that was the reason why I went into business for myself. I went into business for self because for me and what I was going through, the therapy I needed for self was I needed to be available. As a man, I can't say screw your family. I want to have boys. I wanted to have boys, and I want to be available for my boy. So if daddy's chasing the dollar, chasing the bag, and he ain't here, I'm doing the same things to my son that was done to me. And it was about breaking that in some regards, and in some circles would say generational curses, right? I needed to break that. My life made sense. And this was my purpose now, was like, what was done to me does not have to carry over to another generation, right? And it's like, dude, it literally took me from why was I born to this is what I was born to do, right? And the therapy, I mean, football was therapeutic. Going on the field, laying people out, letting all that aggression out. But then when football ends, what do? Where do you put it, right? And I'm blessed to say that I stumbled across mentoring because I was seeking mentors. I was academically inclined enough to help students. You see my shirt back there. that whole anti-tutor shirt, right? Yeah. And because underneath it says mentoring works, right? It ain't about the tutoring, it ain't about the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and the academic. It's about being able to reach that child and relate and connect. Because when you can connect on a deeper level, that child will want to perform and be more motivated to perform in a classroom. So it ain't about tutoring, it's about mentoring. And then things just kept evolving. And I felt fulfilled because now I get to take what I've been through and pour it and say, yo, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, here are my failures. Don't fall into the same traps I did. And now there's a purpose behind why I went through what I went through.
Yeah, that's a great, I'm not going to say spin. It's a great reframe of what has happened.
Right.
And my training for many years, my training has been, it's not about what happened. Usually the after effects or the story that you make up around what happened. And so most people out there, everybody out there, I'm literally going to go out. Everybody out there is making up a story about some shit that happened. And it's context, right? Yep. And it's construct.
Absolutely.
I love that. I've never really heard it like that. Like, we don't need tutors. We need mentors. It's not about teaching this guy multiplication. It's about allowing him to feel the space and the safety to share about his anger inside. That will create a better man all day long. That's beautiful because, dude, one of the biggest things we have personal development coaching and we have business coaching. And one of the things that we say to people is, look, you can hire us as business coaches all day long, but your business will only grow so far. It will only grow to the extent that you do. And if it does, because businesses do kind of, the formula gets figured out and they take off, you're now the tether. You're now the limiting factor on your business's growth. And you will be like a bungee cord pulling it backward toward you if you don't go and try and get in front of it. So I've never heard it put that way, but you're right. You can't teach kids surface level bullshit that actually won't help their internal. You must mentor them on the inside so that they can be better people on the outside, more evolved, elevated. Dude, that's awesome. I was wondering, I was like, I got to ask him what that no tutor means.
It was that Ghostbuster spinoff design. You see that with like the tutor word is like the ghost and so forth. And it's funny because we've really been pushing. I feel wholeheartedly that mentoring is a true solution. It is a true solution across the board, dude. And with everything that's going on in our society, I work alongside the education system. My original company, United Mentors, what we were always doing was providing academic mentoring as a supplement, right? And we all remember those teachers. We all remember those teachers that we can remember by their name today that teacher made an impact for you. Everybody else, you've forgotten them.
Yep. 100%.
Right? And why did that teacher make an impact in your life? What did they do that resonated with you on such a deep level that you remember them forever?
Cared about Ian.
Say again?
He cared. Like I remember Dr. Sterngold from college. He cared about Ian, not student 22 in his class of 30. He cared about me and asked me about me and pulled me off to the side and said, hey man, I know this isn't for you. I know you're here and you don't want to be here, but you're a really smart guy. Get what you can out of this thing. I know exactly why you're here. I know exactly what you're designed to do in this world. You're going to figure it out. And I'm not going to grade you accordingly. Just understand that. Like, I'm not going to be like the rest of these teachers that say, man, you keep failing these tests. Like, you're going to fail these tests because you don't give a shit about these tests, because that's not your thing.
Exactly.
So I'm watching you and I'm watching your leadership. So when I see your leadership, I'm going to give you A's. If I see you being a follower and just kind of joining the crowd, I'm not going to reward you for that.
Right.
And that made a real impact on me. Real impact.
Dude, and that's such an innovative way to come about it. And you have these profound educators like the gentleman that you're referring to. And even if they're not in education, but these individuals who really want to impact, like all that matters to them is that they're able to reach those children, like sacrificing all else. I mean, I had one professor at the University of Miami. I'll never forget this guy, Dr. Alex Andrikis, older gentleman, comes in. We're in class, we're talking, and he's really trying to get through to us what it is that he's trying to teach that day, a physics 2 or physics 1 class. This guy gets up on a desk and we're all gasping because like he ain't young, right? Clearly this gentleman is well over 50, maybe even 60s, right? You know, he jumps up on a table, high table, probably like 4 feet off the ground, and jumps off. Right? And he's like, this is gravity, class dismissed. And we're just like, wait, what? And we were so concerned about the lesson, the all this stuff that we're going to have to learn, the exams, all this stuff. And he's like, get out of here. And it impacted us so much. Everybody showed up on time, ready to go, weeks on it, because you never knew what this guy was going to do.
That's the best part. When it's predictable and you're like, God, another droning. Like I remember my stats class, man, droning on. And the guy said to me, you know, you got a 40% on the last test. And I said, I understand, man. I couldn't be more bored here. Like, you don't make me want to learn. This shit's boring to me anyway. Yeah. He said, well, I'll fail you. You can quit the class now. You have 1 day left for that, whatever that period is. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna be resourceful, and I'm gonna go to summer school at the local community college back in Baltimore. I'm going to figure this shit out. I'm going to take this period off and go have fun. And I did. And I got straight A's in all my math classes that I took at community colleges during the summer. And it's because I figured out a system, right? Just put it that way. I figured out a system, but man, that's so awesome. How did you start that first tutor/mentor or mentor/tutor company?
So
like, how did that come about?
I mean, straight out of college, I'd worked for various tutoring companies because my math aptitude, I've always had a gift of being able to disseminate like complicated theoretical stuff to kids on a lower level, like bringing it down to their level, right? My wife, she jokes all the time, man. She's like, you don't remember that time we were on a date and I was just looking at you in awe because you were literally on a cell phone driving on I-95 tutoring trigonometry. like, yeah, so science
it's a special individual.
I'm just driving. And it was
That's
like
a special individual.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate, you know, what it allows me and has allowed me to do, but then it goes beyond just the academics, right? The reason why that child was even open to receiving the support that they received from me wasn't just because they were failing the class and they were stressed out, right? It was because the connection I had made where they knew they could call me. I was going to be there for them, even heading on a date with my beautiful girlfriend. Hey, yeah, what do you need? Oh, yeah, I got you. Or let me call you back in an hour or whatever. There was somebody that was there going to get their back, right? And it was an impact. So that's why I was always kind of like, dude, this isn't tutoring. Like, this is so much more. This is so much more impactful. So right out of college, pissed off, like I said before, angry, don't know what to do next. Went back to my old high school football coach, again, a mentor of mine, Don McNeil of the 72 Dolphins Super Bowl champions, right?
Nice.
Go back to Don McNeil, found out that he was suffering from MS. So I went to go check him to see how he was doing, just because, again, he made an impact with me. I cared about him. I cared about his family. I go there. His daughter walks in crying. She's usually a straight A student, got a D on her trig test, pissed off, angry, so emotional. And Coach Mack was like, AJ, engineer, go help her, right? And his daughter was like, little sister. We saw his daughter grow up. So it was like, yo, Jess, come over here. Let's talk. So I sit down. I'm like, yo, this is your notes? Who gave you this? And just breaking down the system, right? The system, as you alluded to before. Yeah, this is wrong. This doesn't make sense. Did you ask your teacher about this? And she didn't know. Usually she walks into class, she gets it. She's a smart girl. She gets an A every single time. This is the first time she's ever really had to work and understand the process, right? Like, Jess, this isn't that hard you think it is. Broken down for her. She ends up getting a B in the class. Next thing you know, her mom tells the whole school that she's like the most connected lady in the whole school. And I'm working full time, probably making $50K a year, avoiding engineering because I hated it, and then going to business for myself. So that's how the whole thing got started. It was really because of connection made from a family that I really cared about.
Well, it's also about your not only seeking of mentors, but your care for other people.
Right.
You know, and I mean, literally, like people always say to me, like my mom even has told me, and I know my mom's going to listen to this, and Mom, I'm not upset about it. It drove me. Like my mom would always tell me, like, you're not great at math. Like, you just don't put yourself into situations. I know she was trying to protect me from being hurt, you know, or getting fit or failure. But she'd always say, like, you're not a great math student. Don't put yourself into situations that are going to require a lot of math. But I can tell you right now that my entire business, my success, all of it is based on formulas and systems. And I became obsessive, not with math, right? Not with tutoring, the surface. Right. I became obsessed with how to create a formula out of things. How does that work? How does this work? If this goes this does this. Oh, okay. That's still math. Right. So I actually am very successful through mathematics,
Absolutely,
formulaic equations, and I'm
and
not
then
good at math
logic.
at all.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, I go to show you, because the young lady I was just talking about, even though she hated math at that time, she had a horrible experience with that teacher. After the mentorship, you know what she does on a daily basis? Math. Literally for a career.
But that's to prove your point, is that I probably didn't like math because all of my math teachers, maybe except for one in high school,
there it is,
boring as shit.
There it is.
100% just, I mean, think about being a math teacher. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, how hard is that to connect with kids like in that subject?
So
I mean, most subjects are hard.
I've been a math teacher straight out of college. I was teaching math. I was tutoring. You know, I was like, I can do this on the side. It'll help pay my car note, whatever. And to your point, like, how hard is it? Absolutely. If you approach it from the standpoint of, I need to connect with these kids.
Yeah, but they don't.
Now I got to come here and teach math. No. I got to connect with these kids if I'm going to teach math.
Yeah, but that's a mentor.
Exactly.
That's a mentor.
Exactly.
You know, that there's a, most of the math teachers I've had, except for probably one, Mr. Blake in college, Mr. Blake made things fun. Just like your teacher that jumped off the desk.
Yeah.
It's so cool just thinking about, like, reminiscing. We would come in and never know what this guy's going to do. This guy could have his jacket on backwards, and this guy could be just like lounging out in a hammock in the classroom, like calling kids out on some dumb stuff, making everybody laugh. He made you feel comfortable. Like, I know that's what you're talking about. Like that kind of guy made me want to go to class. Everybody else was like, oh my God, man, I'm so bored in this class, 95% of them. And it was those people that actually cared. Like, that's why you're successful today, because you found people that actually cared, and because you cared, and you found people that would mentor you and kind of take you from where you were to where you wanted to go, but cared about you, the human, not just increasing your skills. Your college experience, my college experience, was simply pretty much the same, not the same, but I wasn't satisfied with college. I loved my college, but I wasn't satisfied with the experience, the educational experience, because nobody said to me, hey, look, man, even though you're going to a liberal arts college, I know that you don't need 90% of this shit. So we're going to be cool, and we're just going to allow you to go to like 30% of the things that you need. That's about it. And we're going to put you on an entrepreneurial track right now, knowing that that's where you're cut. That's what you're designed to do. We're going to put you on that track. We're going to make you do a couple things for the college that are entrepreneurial. You want to do that? I would have been like, oh, hell yeah. Thank you very much.
Right. You know why that doesn't happen? Two reasons. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
Number one, let's just be real. This is America, capitalist society. They can't afford it, and they can't afford it because they haven't designed a system that can afford it. Right. And so, Ian, this is where you and I relate on a high level, because even though they had me as an engineer, one of the reasons why I can get down that way is because process flow. Right. Like you said, it's process flow. If then, and I've always been a solutionist like you. Like, we're solutionists. Like, I want to break it down, figure it out. It's a blessing and a curse, because my wife will tell you, oh my God, stop trying to solve my problem. Stop. Right. But in those scenarios where you're like, well, this is, to me, common sense. If you could really just take this and add these components, my whole desire for the Epic Foundation, right? Epic is experienced professionals impacting. That's why that I is highlighted. Impacting communities. That's what Epic is. And dude, the Epic Foundation is a nonprofit organization that's geared towards ushering dynamic change to education. Because we feel it really sounds, not to sound cliche, but it takes a village to raise a child. So if it takes a village to raise a child, we can't have just one teacher per 30 kids. That's not going to work, right? If anything, we need 30 teachers for one kid. That's expensive. How do we house that? Mentoring, community involvement, right?
Yes.
We have over-romanticized, because of just how publicity and how our society has been geared, we have over-romanticized the educational system, which really, and for all intents and purposes, is a schooling system, right? You ever heard the phrase, like, don't let your schooling get in the way of your education?
100%.
Right? Yep. And you have a lot of profound, gifted educators, and this is a big one.
Yeah.
That are no longer in education.
They're in schooling.
Right? A lot of these people left schooling, education all overall. They're in construction, they're in business, they're doing everything else
real estate,
because of the system.
Yeah.
And so who is in front of our students now? Who are in front of our kids? Who's teaching our kids now? A lot of people who've just defaulted to teaching because of that phrase. People who can do, people who can't teach. Well, I don't want that person who can't in front of my kid. Like, I want that person who did it.
Right.
You understand? I was a great teacher, and I'm not tooting my own horn because this is what the kids have told me and the impact it was made. I was a good teacher, not because of me, right? My background, my ability came back to say my story, what had happened to me, all those who had influenced me, both positive and negatively, right? I was able to disseminate information on an academic level. Great. Fantastic. But kids don't care what you know until they know you care.
100%.
One of my mentors taught me that. People don't care what you know until they know you care. And when we step in a situation where now, like, if we can have a bunch of people who've actually experienced life, who've gone out there, who better suited to work with a kid in math than an engineer who uses it and can answer that question? Oh, well, sir, how am I going to use this in life? Why am I learning this? I can answer that question. But the system can't afford an engineer to be in a classroom because they're only paying $35,000, $40,000, $45,000 a year.
Right. Yeah, I agree, man. I totally agree. And it's interesting because they're like, my daughter is almost 6. You know, my wife and I have had these discussions, and I said, look, I don't want her to go to public school. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just am not into it because of my experience in public school. But I'm not putting her in public school because I'm angry about my experience. I'm not putting her in public school because I learned from my experience. My daughter is me in a female form.
Right.
That's not for her.
Right.
Not for her. Because people say, like, wow, you know, when I was a real estate agent years ago, I would say, listen, I mean, schools are important if you plan on putting your kid in that school. If you don't plan on putting your kid in that school, school zones don't matter except for your resale. And they'd be like, well, why wouldn't we put our kid in that school? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I mean, you have choices. You don't have to put your kid in that public school. Just because it says it's a blue ribbon doesn't mean that it's right for your kid.
Right.
Exactly. So there has to be I mean, out here in California, like, there are very high rated public schools around me where I live. I chose not to do that. I chose to put her in a really small private school that has, like what you were talking about, a ton of different type of educators helping her through her journey of life. Right. And teaching her about all kinds of different things about herself within life, not that she's just a cog in the wheel for life. That's a big differentiation that I wanted. And I heard from these guys at this school, and I'm like, I'm writing the check right now. Let's go. And they're like, well, you're on a waiting list and you're going to have to apply and all these other, and we did, man. We jumped through a lot of hoops to get her in this school, and I'm really happy about it. So before we wrap, let's talk about the Epic Foundation, man. I love what you're doing. And it's so, like, I'm seeing the check behind you. I'm looking at the shirt. Like, now it all makes sense. No tutor, like, impact. I get it now.
There it is. Well, listen, man, I appreciate the opportunity of being on with you today, man. This has been impactful for me as well. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing this come out, and we're going to do our best to promote your organization as well. I think there's a lot more that we can do together, 100%, you know, between, like I said, building minimum purpose, all these different things, these young men that I'm having to mentor in our organization is supporting. Because as you said about your daughter, and I thought it was so powerful that you shared that, man. I appreciate that vulnerability. I appreciate you, letting us into your house. You know, you've got a daughter who is a chemo version of him. That's a scary thought. Yeah. But you are able, right? Fortunately, you are capable of sending your daughter to a private school as an option. Fortunately,
I built a business. I built a business around that for that reason.
100%. Exactly. And the same thing for me. For me, it was like with my oldest son who I raised, right? Right now, he's going through a struggle of transitioning from, hey, the basketball scholarship didn't come through for me. What do I do next? Right? Etc. And it was like, for me, helping these children under these various circumstances have more options. Well, we know that there are a lot of limitations when you go to a low to moderate income neighborhood and population.
Sure.
We have a lot of these kids that are disadvantaged, underreported, underrepresented, underprivileged, all these terms, right? And when COVID dropped, for example, because Epic was always a scholarship fund, as you see the big check next to me, right? We were giving out money left and right, dude. We've helped support over 250 kids to date, right? We've given away, we've scholarshiped and given financial aid over hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, right? Doing this from 2014, and even before we were even incorporated as the Epic Foundation, we were supporting the community. This was me and my wife in our household giving our 10% back. That's how everything got started. We had other friends and family and colleagues who said, man, that's really cool. I want to do the same thing. Right. And we aligned, we partnered, we got incorporated, we got the 501c3. We started to just organize our resources, just putting our resources together to say, how can we support the community? Because we got kids, we were kids, we understand the detriment. We have kids now, we understand the detriments even more so, right? How are we going to support our community's children? Because you have a generation of children that are disadvantaged. You have a large sum of kids that can't afford tutoring. They can't afford, their parents and their families can't afford to send them to that private school or that magnet program that they need to go to, right?
Yeah.
So who's there to make sure that there is equality around their education? And that's where the Epic Foundation started. And I would say this, there's a ton of nonprofit organizations, amazing nonprofit organizations that exist out there. But I find that a lot of them are in their independent silos, and it creates these cracks that turn into gaps, that turn into voids and even black holes where these kids fall through, right? And then we lose track of them until one day they show up at your school campus and shoot everybody.
Jeez, man. Yeah.
That's what's happening in our society. If we don't step up, we're just a part of the problem. Because we can't just lean on the system and say, well, do better. Let me continue to complain about it and the politics and all that other bull. We got to step up and do something about it. For me, that's what Epic was. It was like, look, if we can take us and organize us where every child deserves a mentor or two, right? To help them balance out what's going on in life, to be there, a sounding board, to fill any gaps and voids, we'd have a lot less of these issues. And that's why we started the Epic Foundation. And we have done scholarships forever. We have pivoted towards mentorship programs because, that's my wheelhouse. That's what I do. And now even more so, bro, the last end of the cog is now career pathways. We are exposing these children to the multiple viable options that the school system is not geared towards telling them. Why? Because it's a threat. The system's bottom line is about graduation rates and college acceptance. That's how they make their money. That's how they keep their funding, right? So why in the hell would they tell you, well, son, maybe this would be a viable track. Don't go to college. Why would they tell you that? There's no way in hell they're going to tell you that. They're not going to promote that. So I have a meeting today, this afternoon with ABCI Construction. It's the Associate Builders and Contractors, because again, all these workforce issues and all these situations. I'm like, dude, if I knew then, mentoring. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have gone to UM. I wouldn't have pursued engineering. I would have done that. I would have went and made some money for my household, right, to make sure I could take care of my mom. I would have gone back and gotten that degree later, because again, the way we are, Ian, you and I, we could use the system to our advantage, not let the system use us.
Dude. But the scholastic agenda isn't as powerful as the societal agenda, which is you got to get that college degree if you want to get anybody in. I mean, even my dad, who's a serial entrepreneur, who literally said to me, like, I'm not really that, I don't care about it, but I'm telling you right now, society says you got to have that piece of paper and I'm going to pay for it. So just go. Just get the piece of paper and you can do whatever you want with that. But at least you have the piece of paper to fall back on if you need it, because that's the society we live in.
Right.
The society doesn't want you having options. They want your ass in a job, in a W-2, paying your fair share and getting up every morning and following that system. And those of us that buck against the system, we're usually we're cast out for the most part for a while until we figure out our formula, dial it in, and we go, hey, now we're giving back at a much higher level than anybody else is. Like what you're doing.
Exactly.
You're the rejected product down the assembly line. I'm the rejected product down the assembly line. The avocado that didn't pass muster that they just threw away.
Right.
Until it sprouted and joined together and said, no, fuck this, man. We're going to go out and we're going to make a real difference in the world. I mean, look, dude, I was a real estate agent, living my life, hating almost every minute, going, this isn't me. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. If I die today, I've left no impact on this planet. I've done nothing for this world. And then the moment I released, this is for the audience too, the moment I released the outcome and that my identity as a real estate agent and the money, the type of money that I was making, mental purpose showed up, literally. Like mental purpose showed up beginning of 2020. And I already had a coaching business for like 4 years. And I was already coaching at a pretty high level. I was making pretty good money, serious money. When I said, you know what? real estate is really the means to an end.
Right.
And I'm just going to be open to what that end looks like and the new beginning looks like. And mental purpose literally showed up.
Dude, if I can speak towards those individuals, because we always talk, I mean, I appreciate everything you're sharing with the community and with your audience. And if I can speak towards, you know, those mini AJs and mini Ians that exist out there, because to your point, when you're talking about the assembly line, right, the rejected product, based on paper, right, I was the ideal avocado, but yet your assembly line still rejected me.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So wait a minute. This is what you wanted. This is the product you want to make money off of. But yet, how did I end up on the floor sprouting out of a tree? Like you said, something's wrong with your system.
Yeah.
Right. If your system is specifically rejecting these because it doesn't want it, got it. Well, that's a part of your system. That's what you want. That's how you wanted it to play out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I on paper, my transcript was solid, bro. I had every superlative. I had the 4.0. I did everything you told me to. I was a perfect avocado. Yet I still fell in the midst of all the other rejects. And it was baffling. It was like, wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense. So I talk to those specifically because I want to encourage them and help them understand that it's the systematic aspect that is not necessarily for you. And as long as you educate yourself, if you're more aware, right, of what's going on, like you did, you had to go find out that you could have gone to that summer class at a community college. You had to go and do that. You had to know. And it's funny because we got a generation of rejects, quote unquote. Yeah. Right. Where the older generation, the people who own these corporations, who are hiring this generation, right? The 16, 17, 18-year-olds who need to go to college, who end up being the 18 to 22-year-olds who come out with degrees, ends up being the 22 to 24-year-olds who get the masters and get hired and get it. This older generation who has to evaluate their transcripts, their resumes, and hire them, they're looking at this generation now, this younger generation, whatever the hell they deem it now, and they have this bad connotation. Oh, they don't want to work hard. Oh, they've got such a nasty concept of what this generation is. And I'm like, do you understand that this generation has recognized that the system doesn't work? Right? We were just there doing what we were supposed to do. And mom and dad were like, hey, you better go get that degree. I'll pay for it. And they're like, no, because you know what? I have access to this thing. And this shows me that there's a lot of rich people who didn't go. So I'm not I'm even less motivated now.
Right. It's the information age.
Right. So it's like, what type of information should we be pumping out to help these kids? They're like, you know what, son? You're right. Yeah. You may not need this. Now, maybe you want to invest in this because of XYZ, but that's not the only track. Here's another option. Do this, and then go back after. Or if you get the scholarship, you're not going to have to pay for it. Damn sure no, do it now. Right? Because that's going to go away if you don't take advantage of it now. But if it ain't there, don't go in debt. Go do something else and then pay for it later.
Agreed.
So it's what kind of,
and also
say again.
Well, dude, the mentor piece for us as well is teaching, especially young men, how to understand themselves and trust and have faith in their own decisions, whether right or wrong, or serving or non-serving, right?
Right.
But because like the societal rejection lever didn't kick you and I off the assembly line. The universal one did. It did us a freaking favor and a half.
Yeah.
And so that's something that everybody listening needs to understand is society didn't reject you. The universe did you a favor and said, this isn't your path. We don't want you to go to a cubicle where you're going to be have murderous rage every day. Exactly. We're going to reject you right now. And we're going to make it look like society has rejected you, or that scholastics or whatever has rejected you, or the corporate world has rejected you. The corporate world would have never picked me up. I was lucky to get into the couple colleges I did because my grades were so bad in high school that the system rejected me immediately.
Wow.
But it wasn't the system rejecting me, because I could have talked my way into a corporate job, a sales job.
Same.
It was the universe saying, hey, bro, I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm going to kick you off this assembly line that you're trying to ride down because you think that's what you're supposed to do. And I know your defiance is kicking, and I know that you're terrified of having to be someone's puppet, someone's show up here, take your lunch here, ask to go to the bathroom. That scared me more than anything in the world. Having to be controlled by somebody else's idea of what I should be doing, how much I should be making, not happening. The 100%. Universe said, there you go. Now you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to climb back up on your own. But I found great mentors, and I found great people that guided me. And that is what
reach back and they reached back and they pulled you up and they paid it forward, dude. And that's what it's about. That's what this society is really supposed to be about.
Right.
We're supposed to be
that's what
helping
we're doing.
The next person, the next generation in that way. And dude, that's why I founded Epic. This is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we've had a chance to really prove a concept, because even when we got kicked off that assembly line and we looked back up like, why the hell am I not up there? And we climbed back up for it. We started to recognize the issues and how we could be better. So our rejection became our value.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times we become invaluable because we recognize what is wrong with the system. Right. And we can come back in. So that's like what happened with me. This is another conversation for another day. But what happened with me at the University of Miami, dude, it wasn't until maybe like sometime this year I realized, like, man, it had to go down the way it did.
Totally.
I don't quit things. I don't know how to quit. So it had to go down the way it did for me to get off that team, because I wouldn't have quit otherwise. And I would have been in a worse place if I didn't. So the universe had to be like, dude, this guy, he ain't gonna quit. So you gotta like make him quit so that he realizes the value of it later on in life. But at the time, you're angry, you're pissed off, it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't compute. And it's like you don't have that ability to really process it. So there's that faith-filled almost falling back on trust, like, yo, maybe it's bigger than me. Maybe there's something bigger going on that I can trust and I can kind of fall in, because I used to talk about that gut instinct, and I use gut like an acronym. Basically, everything in my life is an acronym. So gut was God's unbiased truths. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I like it.
Unbiased, meaning you may not like it, but it's gonna happen and it's gonna go on anyway. But it's the truth. It's truth that you needed to overcome your reality in the situation that you weren't seeing.
I mean, but at that point, it's up to you to either think it happened to you or for you.
Correct. Yep. That's a decision.
And looking back, hindsight, I see how exactly it happened for me. During it, I'm like, why is this happening to me?
Right.
Why can't I get it? Why can't I get in there? So that's the reframe, dude. Listen, we could talk for hours. We're gonna have another one of these, and we're gonna do some stuff together. I make that commitment right now. Like, whatever you need from us, we're here to help you. You need us to come to Miami, speak on your behalf, do something, like, no problem. And that includes Aaron too. Aaron's a phenomenal speaker and mentor, and like, that's awesome. We got your back, man. We definitely support the Epic Foundation, and whatever we can do, you got us.
I appreciate it, man. And again, let everybody know they can follow us online, right? Social media, website, epicsouthflorida.org. That's our website. Check us out. Get connected. We're a foundation. We're always looking for contributions, but we're really more than anything else looking for partnerships. We're looking for people who can get down with what we're getting down with, trying to change the world, trying to make an impact on America's education system as a whole, get involved, right? At Epic South Florida on Instagram, Epic SFL, the shorthand, on Facebook. We're here to make a tremendous and a very dynamic impact. So if you want to make your impact dynamic, join Team Epic.
EPIC SFL, right?
Yeah, if you're doing Facebook, it's shorthand SFL. On Instagram, it's spelled all the way out. Epic South Florida spelled all the way out, just like our website.
Sick. I love it, man. Dude, AJ, it was a pleasure. Real pleasure, man. A real pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you being on, doing what you're doing for the world, for your communities. And we're going to do a lot of cool stuff together, man. I'm excited. Well, bro, I'm down to come out there to the other sunny Florida handle. I feel like California, SoCal all day. You let me know, because right now we say Epic South Florida, but it's the Epic Foundation, man. And we want to take this thing nationwide. So we're looking forward to being able to connect real soon. Okay. Yeah. Epic Southern California. I love it, man. I'm in. Do it. SoCal, let's go. All right, dude. Thanks for being here. And audience, we'll catch you on the next one.